Global equities mixed ahead of fresh economic data. Wall Street stocks finished marginally lower on Tuesday as investors reacted to a weaker than expected reading on consumer confidence. The Conference Board said the U.S. Consumer Confidence Index slipped to 117.2 in May from a revised 117.5 a month earlier. As such, the S&P 500 declined 0.21%, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 0.24%, and the Nasdaq fell less than 0.1%. In Asia, equities were mostly higher on Wednesday as inflation fears continued to ease after reassured by comments from the U.S. Federal Reserve officials that they no longer see the need to change course. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand announced it would maintain the current stimulatory monetary policy until its inflation and employment targets are met. The Shanghai Composite Index rose 0.34%, while Tokyo's Nikkei 225 ended 0.31% higher. The Kospi in Seoul slipped 0.09%, and Sydney's S&P ASX 200 shed 0.32%. European stocks closed mixed, with the Pan-European Stock 600 ending little changed for the session. Earlier in the day, the ACB's Panetta said it was clearly premature to discuss any pairing of emergency asset buying in the Eurozone, even though the economic outlook is improving. In individual stocks, shares of Marks & Spencer climbed 4.5% after the retailer said its business was ahead of a two-year earlier comparative for the first 6 weeks of fiscal 2022. The company was also swung to a pre-tax loss for fiscal 2021 on lower revenue. However, stocks erased gains by the close to shed 0.75% on the session. Following a mixed start to the day, the dollar gained nearly across the board on Wednesday, backed by subtle taper talk from the Fed. Federal Reserve Governor Randall Corliss opened the door to discussing the reduction of the bank's bond buying scheme in one of the upcoming meetings. Early on Thursday, the greenback continued to find support from emerging views the Federal Reserve is slowly edging toward a discussion about tightening monetary policy. Meanwhile, U.S. stocks rose slightly on Wednesday. Trading was light ahead of the Memorial Day weekend. The S&P 500 ended just under 0.2% higher after wavering between small gains and losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained less than 0.1%, and the Nasdaq added 0.6%. The gains were tempered by declines in healthcare, technology, and other stocks. In other markets, oil futures finished higher on Wednesday as price support across the board declined in the U.S. petroleum inventories outweighed concerns over the prospects of a return of Iranian crude oil supplies to the global market. The Energy Information Administration reported Wednesday that U.S. crude inventories fell by 1.7 million barrels for the week ending May 21st. Gasoline supply also declined by 1.7 million barrels, while distillate stockpiles fell by 3 million barrels for the week. As such, Brent crude closed around $68.60, off local highs in the $69 area. Early on Thursday, the futures came under some pressure, however, erasing yesterday's gains. Elsewhere, gold prices topped $1,900 for the first time since the early days of 2021, as investors continued investing money into the gold-backed funds. However, the bullion failed to preserve intraday gains as the dollar reversed north to finish below the $1,900 figure that remains in the focus for now. Asian shares were mixed Thursday as investors watched for signs of inflation awaited U.S. economic data expected later in the day. The next key economic update is set for today when the Commerce Department releases its latest GDP report for the first quarter. Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 shed 0.33%, South Korea's Kospi gained 0.05%, Australia's S&P ASX 200 inched up 0.3%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng slipped 0.2%, while the Shanghai Composite Index added 0.35%. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. Please click subscribe to always be in touch with the latest market news.